The gun went off before Naomi Carter had time to decide whether she was brave or just stupid. 1 second she was standing under the flickering light of a southside gas station. The air sharp with gasoline and cold. Her delivery app still open on her phone. The next, a deafening crack split the night. An instinct took over. Naomi lunged forward, shoving the elderly Korean woman away from the ATM with all the strength her exhausted body could muster. The bullet hit Naomi instead. White-hot pain exploded through her left shoulder, so fierce it stole the breath from her lungs. Her phone flew from her hand. The world tilted violently, the ground rushing up as her knees gave out. Someone screamed. It might have been her. It might have been the woman she'd just saved. As Naomi collapsed, she saw the old woman's face hovering above her. No panique. No hysteria. Just sharp, assessing eyes that seemed almost annoyed. As if this wasn't supposed to happen this way. Then everything went black. When Naomi opened her eyes again, the first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the familiar hum of traffic or sirens or shouting neighbors. This silence was heavy, padded, expensive. Her head throbbed as she tried to sit up. And pain ripped through her shoulder so hard she cried out. "Don't move." The voice was calm, controlled female. Naomi froze. Her eyes adjusted, taking in the room. White walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Silk sheets pooled around her waist. The smell of antiseptic mixed with something floral and expensive. This was not a hospital. This was not her apartment. This was not anywhere she recognized. "Where am I?" Naomi croaked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. "You are safe," the woman said. "For now." Naomi turned her head slowly. The elderly woman from the gas station sat in a cream-colored chair beside the bed, dressed impeccably in a tailored suit. Her silver hair was swept back into a neat knot. She looked like money. Old money. The kind that didn't need to announce itself. "What happened?" Naomi demanded. "I need to leave. I have deliveries." "I have." "You were shot," the woman said, cutting her off gently. "You lost a significant amount of blood. You have been unconscious for 18 hours. Naomi tried to swing her legs off the bed, panic surging. The room spun instantly, her vision blurring. She grabbed the mattress to steady herself. "I need to go," she said, her voice shaking now. "I can't be here." "You cannot stand," the woman replied. "And even if you could, you would not be permitted to leave." Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. "Permitted," she snapped. "You don't get to kidnap me because I helped you." The woman studied her for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "Kidnap is an ugly word. I prefer protection." Naomi laughed, sharp and hysterical. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but this is insane." "My name is Sunhee Park," the woman said. "And you took a bullet meant for me." Naomi's stomach dropped. "So what? That means I owe you my life now." "No," Sunhee replied. "It means you became part of my world." Naomi pushed herself up again, ignoring the pain, and staggered toward the door. "I didn't ask for that world." She yanked the door open. 2 men in dark suits stood outside, massive and unmoving. They didn't block her physically. They didn't need to. Their presence was a wall. Naomi turned slowly back to Sunhee, fear curling cold in her chest. "What do you want from me?" Sunhee stood, moving with the easy grace of someone used to command. "Nothing you haven't already given," she said. "Your attention." Naomi clenched her fists. "You don't get to talk like this as some favor. I have bills. I have a family. I have. You have $84,000 in medical debt from your mother's cancer treatments," Sunhee said calmly. "You work overnight stocking shelves, you deliver food at all hours, and you clean offices on weekends. You send money every month to your father and younger brother. You haven't seen a doctor yourself in years because you can't afford it." Naomi stared at her, blood roaring in her ears. "How do you know that?" Sunhee's eyes softened slightly. "Because I wanted to." Naomi backed away, her spine hitting the bed. "This is wrong." "Last night was not a robbery," Sunhee continued. "It was an assassination. The men who attacked me belong to an organization that does not forgive interference. You interfered." "Then let me disappear," Naomi said desperately. "I'll leave the city. I won't talk. Son, he shook her head. They will find you. The door behind Naomi opened again. She felt him before she saw him. The room seemed to tighten, the air shifting. Heavy footsteps crossed the floor. Naomi turned. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black like it was armor. His skin was deep brown, his features sharp and severe, his eyes so dark they looked almost black. He didn't look at Naomi with curiosity or sympathy. He looked at her like a calculation. This is her, he asked. Yes, son, he said. This is Naomi Carter. He studied Naomi slowly, from her pale face to the sling holding her injured arm. She's smaller than I expected. I can't hear you, Naomi snapped. His gaze flicked to her, unreadable. Good. Naomi straightened, anger burning through the fear. Who the hell are you? He stepped closer. My name is Jay Park. Something in the way son he watched him told Naomi everything she needed to know. This was her son. And whatever power son he held, he carried it like it belonged to him by birthright. Jay pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. Do you recognize this place? He turned it toward her. Naomi's breath hitched. The photo showed her brother Malik standing outside their apartment building, basketball tucked under his arm, laughing at something out of frame. The timestamp read 6 hours ago. What did you do? Naomi whispered. Nothing, Jay said. Yet. She lunged toward him without thinking. The guards moved instantly, hands gripping her arms, holding her in place. Don't touch my family, Naomi shouted, tears burning her eyes. You have no right. Jay leaned in, his voice low. I am the reason they're safe. Naomi's knees felt weak. What do you want? Jay glanced at his mother. Son, he nodded. I'm going to marry you, Jay said. The words landed like a gunshot. Naomi stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? A marriage, he continued calmly. Public. Immediate. You're insane, Naomi said. I don't even know you. You saved my mother's life, Jay replied. In my world, that creates obligation. That's not obligation, Naomi cried. That's a cage. Jay's lips curved slightly. A very expensive one. Son, he stepped forward. This union will protect you, she said softly. And your family. And if I say no? Naomi asked. Jay's expression hardened. Then I step away. And them. Naomi whispered. Then you face the men who pulled the trigger last night alone. The room closed in around her. Naomi sank back onto the bed, heart pounding, the weight of the choice crushing her chest. Jay watched her silently. You have until morning, he said. After that, I announce my wife. And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving Naomi alone with the echo of his words and the terrifying realization that her life had just been rewritten. Naomi didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Malik's smile frozen in that photo, saw the gun flash, felt the burn in her shoulder all over again. The silk sheets twisted beneath her as she shifted, mind racing through escape plans that died the moment they formed. At dawn, a soft knock sounded. Come in, Naomi said hoarsely. A young woman entered, dark-skinned with braided hair pulled into a neat bun. She wore a simple black uniform and carried a tray of food that smelled warm and comforting. Ex fruit teo. You should eat, the woman said gently. Naomi eyed her warily. Who are you? My name is Amma, she replied. I manage the household. Naomi snorted. Household? That's one word for it. Amma placed the tray on the table. You are not a prisoner, she said, not meeting Naomi's eyes. But you are not free either. That's funny, Naomi said bitterly. Because that sounds exactly like a prison. Amma hesitated, then looked at her. I came here 6 years ago with nothing. Mr. Park gave me protection, work, stability. She paused. There is a cost to safety. Naomi picked at the food, appetite gone. Does he ever stop taking? Amma's expression flickered. No. The door opened again, heavier this time. A massive man stepped in, dark-skinned with scars along his jaw and neck. He wore a suit that looked custom-made for his broad frame. Miss Carter, he said. I'm Bayo. Your security. My what? Naomi snapped. Where you go I go, Bayo replied. Bathroom excluded. I'm not a monster. Naomi laughed humorlessly. You work for them too? I work for survival, Bayo said simply. Hours passed in a blur. A doctor arrived, examined her shoulder, warned her not to strain it. Clothes appeared in the closet, perfectly fitted. Shoes her size. Everything too prepared. Too planned. Naomi stared at herself in the mirror, dressed in a cream blouse and dark trousers that made her look like someone else entirely. Someone important. Someone she didn't recognize. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Malik said you haven't answered. Are you okay? Her fingers trembled as she typed back. I'm fine. New job. Busy. Love you. The lie tasted like ash. She was led through the penthouse, past men who nodded respectfully, past cameras disguised as decor. Power hummed in the walls. This wasn't wealth. This was an empire. Sunhee waited in a sunlit room overlooking a private garden. Tea steamed between them. Sit, Sunhee said. Naomi stayed standing. You used me. Sunhee inclined her head. Yes. The honesty stunned her. You knew they were coming. I suspected, Sunhee replied. I needed confirmation. So my life was just bait. You chose to act, Sunhee said calmly. No one forced you to step forward. Naomi's voice shook. I could have died. But you didn't, Sunhee said. Because you are stronger than you know. That's not strength, Naomi snapped. That's desperation. Sunhee studied her. In my world they are often the same. Naomi finally sat, exhausted. Why me? Because you are not corrupt, Sunhee said. You are poor, tired, angry, and still you acted. That is rare. The door opened. Jay entered, dressed casually now but no less intimidating. His eyes flicked to Naomi lingering. Have you decided? He asked. Naomi stood. You don't get to do this. You don't get to decide my life like it's a chess piece. Jay's voice was calm. Everything is a chess piece. I'm not one of them, she shot back. He stepped closer. You already are. Naomi swallowed. What happens if I agree? Jay exhaled slowly. You become my wife. Publicly. You live here. You are protected. And privately? You learn, he said. How power works. How to survive it. And if I don't? Jay's gaze hardened. Then I cannot protect you from what comes next. Naomi's chest tightened. You're blackmailing me with my family. I'm telling you the truth, Jay said. The men who shot you won't stop. They'll look for weakness. You are it. Sunhee spoke softly. Marriage unites factions. It sends a message. No one touches what belongs to my son. Naomi laughed bitterly. So I become property. Jay's jaw tightened. You become untouchable. Silence stretched between them. Naomi looked from Sunhee to Jay. Seeing it clearly now. This wasn't about love. It wasn't even about her. She was a symbol. A shield. A sacrifice dressed in silk. What if I say yes? Naomi said slowly. And then I refuse to play along. Jay stepped closer, his voice dropping. Then you'll learn quickly why my enemies fear me. Fear rippled through her. But something else stirred too. Anger. Resolve. You think I'm weak, Naomi said. Because I'm broke. Because I needed help. Jay met her gaze. I think you're dangerous, he said quietly. That's why you're here. Her heart pounded. I want guarantees. Jay raised an eyebrow. My family stays untouched, Naomi said. No surveillance. No threats. And after 1 year I walk clean. Sunhee smiled faintly. She negotiates. Jay considered her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Agreed. Naomi's breath caught. Just like that. This is business, Jay replied. And you are more valuable alive and cooperative. The words stung, but they also steadied her. When does this happen? Naomi asked. 3 days, Sunhee said. An engagement announcement. Naomi closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, something in her gaze had changed. Then teach me, she said. Everything. Jay watched her, something unreadable flickering across his face. Oh, he said softly. We will. And Naomi realized that the cage had closed, but so had the door to the girl she used to be. The training started the same night. Naomi barely had time to process her decision before her door opened and Amma stepped in again, this time accompanied by Jay. He leaned against the doorframe like he owned not just the room, but the air inside it. Change, he said. Comfortable clothes. For what? Naomi asked, her voice sharp. For staying alive, he replied. She changed into black leggings and a fitted long-sleeve shirt. When she came out, Jay was already walking down the hall. She followed, Bao trailing behind them like a shadow. They descended into a private underground level that felt more like a bunker than a basement. Concrete walls, bright lights, weapons racks lining one side, a sparring mat in the center. Naomi stopped short. You expect me to fight? Jay turned to face her. I expect you not to die. A woman stepped forward from the shadows. Tall, Korean, muscles coiled tight beneath her clothes. Her hair was pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. This is Minji, Jay said. She'll train you. Minji looked Naomi up and down. You're injured. She won't be for long, Jay replied. Naomi clenched her jaw. I'm not your soldier. Minji tilted her head. Then you'll be a corpse. The first lesson was brutal. Minji showed no mercy, sweeping Naomi's legs out from under her, forcing her onto the mat again and again. Every fall sent pain screaming through Naomi's shoulder, but Minji never apologized. Pain is information, Minji said flatly. Learn from it. Naomi gasped, sweat soaking her clothes. You enjoy this? No, Minji replied. I enjoy winning. Jay watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, eyes never leaving Naomi. When Minji finally stepped back, Naomi collapsed onto her knees, breathing hard. Enough, Jay said. Minji nodded and stepped away. Naomi glared up at him. Satisfied. Not yet, he said. But you didn't quit. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I don't have that luxury. He crouched in front of her, close enough that she could smell his cologne again. That's why you'll survive. That night, Naomi lay awake again, her body aching in new ways. But beneath the pain was something else. A strange, simmering focus. For the first time in years, she wasn't reacting. She was preparing. The next day brought language lessons, etiquette drills, and long conversations she wasn't allowed to record. She learned when to bow slightly, when to hold eye contact, when silence was more powerful than speech. Son, he observed it all like a chess master. You speak when spoken to at first, Son, he told her over tea. You smile. You listen. You remember everything. And if someone disrespects me? Naomi asked. Sunhee's eyes sharpened. Then you let my son handle it. For now. For now, Naomi repeated. That evening, Jay took her to dinner in a private room overlooking the city. The food was exquisite. Naomi barely tasted it. Why me? She asked suddenly. Really? Jay paused, studying her. Because you didn't hesitate. That's not enough, she said. It is, he replied. In my world, hesitation gets people killed. She met his gaze. You ever hesitate? Once, just for a second, something flickered in his eyes. I learned not to. 2 days before the announcement, the first threat came. Naomi was in the garden with Amma when the sound of gunfire cracked through the air. Shouts followed. Men running. Bao appeared instantly, pulling Naomi behind him. Down. Her heart slammed as armed men flooded the courtyard. Jay's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. Secure the perimeter. Naomi crouched behind a stone planter, breath coming fast. This wasn't a drill. This was real. Minutes later, silence returned. Jay strode toward her, blood on his knuckles that wasn't his. Was anyone hurt? Naomi asked, her voice shaking. No, he said. Because they were testing. Testing what? She whispered. How quickly I respond, Jay replied. And how visible you are. Her stomach twisted. This is because of me. This is because of power, he corrected. You're just the symbol. That night, Naomi cried for the first time since the shooting. Quietly. Alone. Angry tears that soaked into expensive sheets. On the morning of the engagement announcement, the house buzzed with controlled chaos. Stylists, security briefings, final rehearsals. Amma adjusted Naomi's dress, her hands gentle. You look strong, she said. Naomi laughed softly. I don't feel it. You don't have to, Amma replied. They only need to believe. Naomi stood before the mirror, dressed in ivory, her shoulder hidden beneath elegant fabric. The girl staring back looked powerful, untouchable. She barely recognized herself. Jay appeared in the doorway, dressed in a dark tailored suit. His gaze lingered on her, something unreadable passing between them. You ready? He asked. No, Naomi said honestly. But I'm coming. He nodded. That's all I ask. As they stepped into the grand hall together, the room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward them. Curiosity, calculation, judgment. Jay's hand found Naomi's lower back, firm and steady. This is where they decide if you're real, he murmured. Naomi lifted her chin. Then let them watch. The announcement was flawless. Smiles, applause, polite shock. But as Naomi scanned the room, she saw it. A man near the back, watching too closely, smiling too slowly. Their eyes met. And in that moment Naomi knew. The real war hadn't started yet. The smile followed Naomi long after the applause faded. She felt it like a hand at the back of her neck while cameras flashed and glasses clinked. Jay's arm remained firm around her waist, his touch steady, claiming. To anyone watching they looked perfect. Powerful. Untouchable. But Naomi's instincts, sharpened by poverty and survival, were screaming. Who is that man? She murmured without moving her lips. Jay's expression didn't change as he scanned the room casually. His eyes locked onto the man she'd noticed for half a second, before he looked away. Finish smiling, Jay said softly. We'll talk after. That answer told her everything. The moment they were behind closed doors, the air shifted. The smiles dropped. Guards sealed the room. Sunhee entered last, her face calm but her eyes sharp. He was bold, Sunhee said. Too bold. Naomi folded her arms tightly. You know him? Yes, Sunhee replied. He works for Kang Dae-sung. The name meant nothing to Naomi, but the way Jay stiffened made her chest tighten. Your rival? Naomi asked. My uncle, Jay said flatly. The room went quiet. Sunhee poured herself tea with unshaken hands. He believes you weaken my son, she said to Naomi. He wanted to see you for himself. Naomi laughed, sharp and humorless. Congratulations. He's seen me. And he will move, Sunhee added. How? Naomi demanded. Tonight, Jay answered. Fear spiked through her. You said the engagement would protect me. It will, Jay said. But not if it stays an engagement. Naomi stared at him. What are you saying? Jay turned fully to her now, his dark eyes steady. We accelerate. Sunhee nodded once. In our culture, marriage is final. Sacred. It sends a message no alliance ever could. Naomi's heart started pounding. You said 1 year. A contract. That was before my uncle showed his face, Jay replied. Now we need permanence. You can't just. Naomi stopped, realization crashing over her. You planned this. Sunhee didn't deny it. I hoped it wouldn't be necessary so soon. But fate rarely follows preference. Naomi backed away a step. You promised me time. And we are still giving you a choice, Sunhee said gently. You can walk away now. Naomi laughed again, tears burning her eyes. And I. Sunhee met her gaze evenly. Possibly. Naomi looked at Jay. Say something. I will protect you, he said. As my wife. Silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. Naomi's thoughts flew to Malik. To her father. To the life she'd already lost the night she heard that gunshot. Tonight, she asked. Jay nodded. Private ceremony. Witnesses only. Naomi swallowed hard. If I do this, there's no undoing it. No, Jay agreed. There isn't. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, something inside her had hardened. Fine, Naomi said. But understand this. I'm not doing this because I believe in you. I'm doing this because I refuse to let anyone else decide who lives and who dies in my family. A flicker of something like respect crossed Jay's face. Good, he said. That's exactly the kind of wife I need. The ceremony took place in a candlelit room Naomi had never seen before. The walls were lined with carved wood and ancient symbols. The air smelled of incense and polished stone. She wore a simple white dress this time. No extravagance. No ilusión. Just truth. Jay stood across from her, dressed in black, his posture rigid. Son, he presided. Her voice steady as she spoke words that bound blood, loyalty, and fate. When it came time to speak, Naomi's voice surprised her with its strength. I will stand, she said. I will learn. I will not be broken. Jay's vow was quiet but absolute. Anyone who touches her answers to me. The ring was heavy on her finger. Solid. Real. The moment it slid into place, Naomi felt it. The shift. The invisible line she'd crossed. She was no longer a guest. She was a target. And a shield. Gunfire erupted outside seconds later. Shouts. Running footsteps. Chaos. Jay moved instantly, pulling Naomi behind him as guards flooded the room. Son, he didn't flinch. Congratulations, she said calmly. Your first night as Mrs. Park. They escaped through a hidden corridor as explosions rocked the estate. Naomi's heart thundered as she ran, dress clutched in her fist, Bao and Minji flanking her. This is insane, Naomi shouted. This is family, Jay replied over his shoulder. They reached a reinforced safe room deep underground. The doors slammed shut just as a blast shook the walls. Naomi slid down against the wall, breath ragged. So this is my life now. Jay crouched in front of her, eyes intense. It's survival. She looked up at him, anger and fear warring inside her. Don't mistake this for submission. I won't, he said quietly. I married a fighter. The screens on the wall flickered to life, showing security footage. Kang Dae-sung's men retreating. Failing. Son, he watched with satisfaction. They came too late. Naomi laughed weakly. That's comforting. Son, he turned to her. You are no longer invisible, child. That is dangerous. But it is also powerful. Naomi pushed herself to her feet. Her shoulder ached. Her heart hurt more. But beneath it all, something fierce burned. They tried to scare me, Naomi said. They should have killed me. Jay studied her. Why? Because now, she said, lifting her hand to show the ring, I'm going to learn everything. Your enemies. Your rules. Your world. Son, he smiled slowly. Good. Jay straightened. This war won't be quick. Naomi met his gaze, her voice steady despite the chaos echoing above them. I'm not going anywhere. Above ground, sirens wailed. Somewhere in the city, a powerful man realized he had failed. And Naomi Carter, now Naomi Park, understood something with terrifying clarity. She hadn't just married into the Mafia. She had become part of it. And the next time a gun fired, she wouldn't be the one on the ground. The city didn't sleep after the attack. It held its breath. From the armored vehicle slicing through Seoul's night traffic, Naomi watched neon lights smear across bulletproof glass. Her reflection stared back. Eyes sharper, posture straighter, fear buried beneath adrenaline. Where are we going? She asked. Jay didn't look at her. Somewhere my uncle doesn't know exists. That narrows it down to nothing, she said dryly. A corner of his mouth lifted. You're adapting fast. She scoffed. I got married during a shootout. Fast is all I've got left. The convoy turned abruptly, descending into an underground ramp hidden beneath an abandoned warehouse. Steel doors sealed behind them with a hydraulic hiss. Naomi felt the air change, cooler, heavier, safer in a dangerous way. Inside, the facility was alive. Armed guards moved with purpose. Screens pulsed with data. Voices spoke in clipped Korean and English. This wasn't a hideout. It was a war room. Son, he was already there. You're late, she said. You're alive, Naomi replied. That's my priority list. Son, he's lips curved. Good answer. Before Naomi could relax, the room exploded with noise. An alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Incoming breach, someone shouted. Jay was already moving. He shoved a pistol into Naomi's hand. I don't know how to use this, she snapped. Point. Squeeze. Don't hesitate, he said, meeting her eyes. Stay behind me. They ran. Gunfire thundered through the corridors. Naomi's ears rang as bullets sparked against reinforced walls. She ducked behind a pillar as a guard went down screaming. Her chest tightened. This wasn't theoretical anymore. This wasn't protection. This was war. A man rounded the corner, weapon raised. Naomi didn't think. She fired. The recoil jolted her arm. The man fell, skidding across the floor. For a split second, everything stopped. Naomi stared at what she'd done. Her hands shook violently. Jay grabbed her shoulders. Breathe. Look at me. She sucked in air, eyes wide. I shot him. You saved us, he said. You saved yourself. More footsteps. More shouting. They sprinted again, bursting into a control room as guards sealed the doors behind them. Outside, fists slammed. Guns roared. Sun He stood at the center console, calm as a queen. Kang Dae-sung is desperate, she said. He's bleeding resources. Then he'll come harder, Jay replied. Naomi wiped sweat from her brow. Why tonight? Why now? Sun He turned to her. Because you survived. Naomi frowned. That doesn't make sense. It does, Sun He said. You were meant to die that night. When you didn't, you became a symbol. Kang fears symbols. A sharp crack echoed as the outer door buckled. Jay grabbed Naomi's hand. We need to move. No, Sun He said. We finished this. She pressed a button. The floor beneath them dropped. Naomi screamed as gravity vanished. The room plunged downward. A hidden elevator descending at terrifying speed. Above them, explosions shook the shaft. When they stopped, silence fell like a blanket. The doors opened to a stark chamber. A single table. 3 chairs. A screen flickered to life. Kang Dae-sung's face filled it. He smiled. Mother, he said smoothly. Nephew. And the girl. Naomi's spine straightened. I have a name. I know, Kang said. Naomi Carter. Or should I say Park? Jay stepped forward. This ends tonight. Kang laughed softly. It began the moment you married her. He leaned closer to the camera. Do you know what you married into, child? Naomi met his gaze. Power. Violence. Lies. Legacy, Kang corrected. And blood. The screen shifted. Malik appeared, bound, bruised, alive. Naomi's heart shattered. Malik. Kang's smile widened. You see? Choices. Jay's voice dropped. Touch him and I will erase you. You already tried, Kang replied. This is my move. Sun He stepped forward. You underestimate her. Kang tilted his head. Doi. Naomi swallowed her terror. Let him go. Leave your husband, Kang said calmly. Walk away. Malik walks free. Jay turned to her sharply. No. Naomi didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the screen. You want me to betray him, she said. After all this. I want you alive, Kang said. You don't belong to them. She laughed, a broken sound. You think you're offering mercy. Her gaze hardened. You kidnapped my brother. Kang shrugged. Business. Naomi raised the gun. Jay grabbed her wrist. Naomi. She shook him off gently. Trust me. She aimed at the camera. And fired. The screen went black. For one heartbeat, there was nothing. Then Sun He smiled. A voice crackled over the intercom. Target neutralized. Hostage secured. Naomi sagged, breath leaving her in a rush. Malik. Alive, Jay said, stunned. Sun He placed a hand on Naomi's shoulder. Kang forgot something. Naomi looked up. What? That you are not leverage, Sun He said. You are the weapon. Later, in the quiet aftermath, Naomi sat alone, staring at her trembling hands. Jay entered slowly. You knew, he said. You knew we had eyes inside. I guessed, she replied. And if I was wrong? Then Malik. I would have walked away, she said. And found another way. He studied her. You would have left me. She met his gaze, unflinching. I would have saved my brother. Silence stretched. Then Jay nodded. I married the right woman. Naomi stood. This doesn't make us safe. No, he agreed. It makes us dangerous. Somewhere above them, a powerful man's empire burned. And Naomi understood something deeper than fear, deeper than love. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was choosing. The next morning, the city's skyline was calm, deceptively peaceful. But Naomi knew better. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every car could hold an assassin. Every call could be a trap. Her world had shifted overnight, and there was no going back. Jay didn't give her time to dwell. Training, he said simply, pulling her toward the garage. A sleek black motorcycle waited, its engine purring like a predator. You're kidding, Naomi muttered. I don't know how to ride that. You will, Jay replied. Today. Bao and Minji flanked them as they hit the empty streets. Naomi gripped the handlebars, heart hammering, as Jay coached from the passenger seat. The city blurred around her, lights streaking, wind ripping at her hair, fear and adrenaline colliding in her chest. Lean forward. Faster. Jay shouted over the roar of the engine. Naomi's arms shook. She swerved. Nearly hit a curb. Heart in her throat. And then something clicked. Balance. Control. Power. You got it, Jay said, a rare smile breaking his otherwise stoic face. They returned to the compound, and Sun-hee was waiting. Time to meet them, she said. Naomi's stomach twisted. Meet who? Your future allies. The captains of our operations, Sun-hee replied. They decide whether you belong, or whether you're expendable. The room they entered was enormous. Long tables, men and women seated with unreadable expressions. Naomi's heels clicked against the marble floor, echoing in the silent space. Whispers stopped. Eyes followed. Jay guided her to the center. Everyone, he said. Meet Naomi Park. My wife. Naomi lifted her chin, trying to project strength. She remembered the gun, the explosion, the night she saved Sun-hee. All the fear, all the rage, all the helplessness. She buried it and let her presence radiate control. A man near the back, a scar running down his cheek, smiled. So this is the girl who took the bullet? Naomi's jaw tightened. Yes, she said. And I'd do it again if I have to. The room went quiet. Then, as if on cue, a loud alarm blared. Smoke filled the far corridor. Men shouted. Bullets cracked against the walls. Ambush. Bao yelled. Naomi didn't hesitate. She grabbed the nearest weapon, sliding into cover behind the table. Jay was beside her, calm, calculating, guiding her hand. A man lunged around the corner. Naomi fired. He went down groaning, and she realized, this wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. Minji took down 2 more intruders with precise strikes. Naomi's muscles burned as adrenaline coursed through her veins. She had to move. Had to protect. Every instinct sharpened to a razor's edge. Jay shouted. Push forward. Clear the hall. They advanced together, Naomi firing, dodging, rolling, moving as if she'd been trained for this her whole life. Every corner held death, but she kept going, heart hammering, mind focused. Finally, they reached the intruder command point. Naomi's eyes widened. Screens flickered with live feeds. Kang Daesung's face appeared again, smug, confident. You think you can hide from me? He sneered. Naomi gritted her teeth. I don't hide. Jay fired, smashing the monitors, cutting Kang's eyes off their sight. Alarms still blared, but for a heartbeat, silence fell. Then more gunfire erupted. But Naomi wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She had fought. She had survived. And she had a family now, a purpose. When the last intruder was down, Naomi looked around at Jay, Bao, Minji, Sun-hee, all standing, bruised but victorious. Not bad for your first real fight, Jay said, clapping her shoulder. Naomi laughed, the sound raw and liberating. Not bad. I think I just survived a war. Sun-hee's gaze met hers. And that, Naomi Park, is just the beginning. Naomi swallowed, heart still racing. She wasn't the same girl who'd delivered groceries. She wasn't even the girl who'd taken a bullet for a stranger's grandmother. She was a weapon. A fighter. And now she was ready to strike back. The city outside might sleep, but Naomi knew one thing. She never would. Her enemies had made a mistake. They'd awakened something unstoppable. And Naomi Park was just getting started. Night fell hard and fast, like the city itself was bracing for impact. Naomi stood at the balcony of the compound, arms wrapped around herself, watching Seoul glow below. Somewhere out there, Kang Dae-sung was still breathing, still plotting, still convinced she was a weakness he could exploit. He was wrong. Behind her, Jae's footsteps were quiet. "We moved before dawn," he said. She didn't turn. "You're going after him?" "Yes." "And you didn't ask me because you already decided." "I didn't ask because I already know your answer," Jae said. She finally faced him. "Then say it." "I need you with me." Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. Not fear. Not doubt. Purpose. "Good," Naomi said. "Because I wasn't planning to stay behind." By sunrise, the operation was in motion. Vehicles rolled out in silence. Weapons checked. Routes memorized. Naomi sat beside Jae, dressed in black tactical gear, her braids pulled back tight. Her reflection in the window barely resembled the woman she'd been weeks ago. Sunhee's voice crackled through the comms. "Kang has fortified his northern estate. He expects you." Jae smirked. "Then let's not disappoint him." They didn't storm the front gates. They burned the illusion of safety first. Power cut. Cameras went dark. Explosions echoed from the outer perimeter, calculated chaos. Kang's men scrambled, shouting into dead radios. Naomi moved with Jae through the shadows, heart steady, senses razor-sharp. Gunfire erupted ahead. She dropped, rolled, fired. One down. Two. She didn't look back. Inside the estate, luxury met violence. Marble floors slick with blood. Shattered art. Broken glass crunching beneath boots. "Left!" Naomi shouted. Jae pivoted, taking out a man she hadn't seen yet. He glanced at her, eyes burning with something fierce and unreadable. They reached the inner chamber. "Kang Dae-sung white that?" He stood calmly, hands clasped behind his back, as if hosting a dinner instead of a war. Guards flanked him, weapons raised. "My nephew," Kang said warmly. "And his wife." How dramatic. Naomi stepped forward before Jae could stop her. "You lost," she said. Kang laughed. "You think this ends with me? I think it ends with you not touching anyone I love ever again." His gaze sharpened. "Love," he repeated. "That's the problem." He snapped his fingers. Shots rang out. Naomi felt the impact before she understood it. Pain tore through her side as she slammed into the wall. The world tilted. Sounds blurred. "Naomi," Jae roared. She slid down, gasping, blood seeping through her gear. "Not again." Jae went feral. He tore through the room like a storm, firing, advancing, destroying. Guards fell one by one. Kang backed away, eyes wide now, the first crack in his composure showing. Naomi pressed her hand to her wound, forcing herself to stay conscious. She wouldn't end like this. Kang ran. Naomi saw it. The open door, the escape route. "No," she whispered, forcing herself up. Every step screamed pain. Every breath burned. But she moved. She reached the doorway just as Kang turned, shock flashing across his face. "You should be dead," he said. "So should you," Naomi replied. She raised her gun. Her hands were steady. The shot echoed through the corridor. Kang Dae-sung fell. Silence crashed down heavy and final. Jae reached her just as her strength gave out. He caught her, holding her against his chest, his hands shaking for the first time since she'd known him. "Stay with me," he said urgently. "Don't you dare." She laughed weakly. "You sound scared." "I am," he admitted. "I can't lose you." Her fingers curled into his shirt. "You won't." Medics swarmed them. Orders were shouted. The world faded in and out as Naomi was carried away. Jae's face the last thing she saw. When she woke, sunlight streamed through white curtains. Her body ached, but the pain was distant, dulled. Machines beeped softly around her. Jae sat at her bedside, eyes red, jaw tight. "You look terrible," she murmured. His breath hitched. Then he laughed, a broken sound. "You scared the hell out of me." She shifted carefully. "Is it over?" "Yes," he said. "It's over." She studied his face. "You okay?" He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to hers. "I am now." Sunhee entered quietly, her expression solemn but proud. Kang's empire is dismantled, she said. His supporters are gone. The war is finished. Naomi exhaled slowly. Good. Sun-hee looked at her for a long moment. You have changed everything. Naomi met her gaze. So have you. Weeks later, the city moved on, unaware of how close it had come to burning. Naomi walked the compound gardens, the air warm, life growing where violence once ruled. Malik laughed somewhere nearby, alive, free. Jay joined her, slipping his hand into hers. Do you regret it? He asked quietly. She thought of the bullet. The blood. The fear. The power she claimed. No, she said. I chose this. He smiled. So did I. Naomi looked out over the city, no longer feeling small beneath its towering skyline.
She hadn't been saved. She had risen. And everyone who ever thought she was expendable would remember one thing for the rest of their lives. The black girl who took a bullet didn't disappear. She became the woman no one dared to cross. The days that followed were a blur of training, strategy, and constant vigilance. Naomi woke each morning to the sound of guards patrolling, her wrist still stiff from the gunshot, her body aching in ways that reminded her she was alive. And very much part of a world she hadn't chosen, but couldn't escape. Jay never let her forget her lessons. Combat drills before breakfast, firearms practice before lunch, cultural and business lessons that felt like school and war combined. Naomi had been a survivor before, but now she was a soldier, a strategist, a wife tied to a legacy bigger than herself. Focus, Jay snapped one afternoon, correcting her aim as the sun slanted through the training room windows. Slow breath. Don't think about fear. Only precision. Naomi swallowed, forcing her body to obey. Every muscle, every nerve, every thought centered on the target before her. She fired, the bullet punching into the designated spot, and for the first time, a spark of pride lit her chest. You did well, Jay said quietly, stepping closer. Good instincts. You're learning faster than I imagined. Naomi lowered the weapon, heat rising to her cheeks. You know what I want? She asked. What? To never have to fire this again. Jay's lips pressed into a thin line. Neither do I. But we live in a world where that's impossible. That night, Naomi sat alone on the balcony, Malik asleep in his room, and let herself breathe for the first time in days. Her mind replayed everything, the bullet, the explosions, the shots fired in corridors, the moment she'd stood over Kang Dae-sun's empire and claimed victory not through negotiation, but sheer will. Sun-hee approached silently, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. You've done more than anyone expected, she said. You survived what would have broken most people. You've earned respect. Naomi shook her head. I didn't do this for respect. I did it to survive. To protect my family. And yet, Sun-hee said, her voice soft but firm, you became something far more powerful than that. You became a symbol. Naomi frowned. A symbol? Yes, Sun-hee said, gazing out at the city. To your enemies, you're someone they cannot control. To those who follow you, you are hope. To Jay, you are everything. Naomi's chest tightened. The weight of her new life pressed down, heavy but electrifying. She had fought, survived, and emerged not broken, but reshaped. The following week brought a new challenge. A rival faction, emboldened by Kang's fall, attempted to infiltrate one of their logistics warehouses. Naomi, Jay, Baeo, and Min-ji moved like a single organism, sweeping through the shadows, neutralizing threats before the intruders even realized they were trapped. Naomi's heart raced as she cornered a man in a dim hallway. His eyes widened as she raised the pistol, every lesson, every instinct in perfect alignment. She fired, disarming him without lethal force, a test of control and precision. You're amazing, he gasped. Naomi didn't answer. She let him go, a silent declaration. She had power, and she could choose how to wield it. Back at the compound, Jay met her gaze. I've never been more proud. Naomi smiled, exhaustion and exhilaration mingling. Proud? I'm just alive. No, Jay said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You're more than alive. You're unstoppable. As the sun set over Seoul, painting the city in shades of fire and gold, Naomi Carter, now Naomi Park, stood tall. Her journey had begun with a bullet, a choice forced upon her. But it had led to mastery, power, and a life she had taken control of. She wasn't the girl who delivered groceries anymore. She wasn't even the woman who had married into the Mafia under duress. She was a force, a black girl who had taken a bullet, stared down death, and emerged as a queen in a world that had underestimated her. And as night fell over the city, she smiled, knowing one undeniable truth. Anyone who thought she was expendable would soon learn, the hard way, that Naomi Park was untouchable. The empire she now stood within wasn't just her home. It was her proving ground. And the world would never forget her. The bullet had not taken her life. It had given her one she would never surrender. She exhaled, letting the city's hum wash over her, the adrenaline finally fading. Behind her, Jay's presence was steady, unwavering. By her side, Malik slept safely. Around her, Sunhee's empire thrummed with life and quiet power. And Naomi knew, deep in her bones, that this was only the beginning. Her story, the story of survival, courage, and relentless defiance, was just starting to echo. And everyone who had ever doubted her, or tried to control her, would soon learn what it truly meant to stand against Naomi Park. She had survived a bullet. She had survived the Mafia. Now, she would survive everything. And she would thrive. The warning came at 1:13 a.m. Not from an alarm. Not from a call. From instinct. Naomi woke up with her heart slamming against her ribs, the kind of wake-up that didn't come from dreams but from danger. The compound was too quiet. No footsteps. No radio chatter. No distant hum of generators. Silence like this only meant one thing. Trouble. She slid out of bed, barefoot, moving on muscle memory alone. The pistol was already in her hand before her mind fully caught up. She cracked the door open just as the emergency lights flickered on, deep red, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then the explosion hit. The east wing shook violently, glass shattering somewhere below. Naomi dropped, covering her head as the shockwave rattled the walls. Shouts erupted. Gunfire followed immediately. Naomi! Jay's voice thundered through the corridor. She ran toward it. They met at the stairwell, both already armed, both already switched into survival mode. Multiple intruders, Jay said fast. Inside the perimeter. How? Naomi demanded. Someone opened the gates. Betrayal. Her jaw tightened. Malik? Safe room. Chem's with him. Good. She pushed past Jay, adrenaline burning through her veins. Then let's end this. They moved together through smoke and chaos. Bodies lay scattered, guards, intruders, blood slick on marble. Naomi fired twice without hesitation, dropping a masked man before he could raise his weapon. Her breath was steady. Her hands didn't shake. She barely recognized herself anymore. Second floor, someone shouted over comms. They're heading for Madame Sunhee. Naomi's stomach dropped. They sprinted. The corridor leading to Sunhee's quarters was a war zone. Flames licked up the walls. Naomi slid behind a pillar as bullets tore into the stone. She peeked out, aimed, fired. One down. Another. Then she saw him. Tall. Broad. Dressed in tactical black with a crimson lotus stitched on his sleeve. Lotus Syndicate. Viper hadn't stayed dead in spirit. He's mine, Naomi muttered. Jay grabbed her arm. Naomi. She yanked free. He came for my family. For yours. This ends now. She advanced without cover. The man smirked when he saw her. The bullet girl, he sneered. Boss will be happy. Naomi didn't respond. She closed the distance fast, firing low, forcing him back. He lunged. They crashed into each other, guns skidding across the floor. He was stronger, heavier, but slower. She slammed her knee into his ribs. Felt bone crack. "You should have stayed a story," he hissed. "And you should have stayed away," she snapped. She grabbed the fallen gun and fired point blank. Silence followed, broken only by crackling flames and distant shouts. Jay reached her seconds later, eyes scanning her for injuries. "You okay?" She nodded, chest heaving. "Sunhee?" "Alive," he said. "Thanks to you." They found her in the safe room, calm as ever, teacup in hand despite the chaos. She looked up at Naomi with something close to pride. "They underestimated you," Sunhee said simply. Naomi wiped blood, someone else's, from her cheek. "They won't again." By dawn, it was over. 6 intruders dead. 1 captured. The traitor revealed, an accountant, bought and paid for by Viper's remaining lieutenants. He didn't last long under questioning. Naomi didn't attend. She sat with Malik instead, holding him close while the compound repaired itself around them. His small hands clutched her shirt, his voice trembling. "I was scared," he admitted. She kissed his hair. "I know. But you're safe. I promise." He looked up at her, eyes wide with trust. "You're like a superhero now." Her throat tightened. "I'm just your sister." But even as she said it, she knew the truth had shifted. Later that evening, the council gathered. Korean elders. Nigerian captains. Faces hard, skeptical, curious. Naomi stood beside Jay, shoulders squared, unflinching. One of the elders spoke. "You were not born into this life." Naomi met his gaze. "Neither were most of us. We chose it. Or it chose us." Murmurs rippled through the room. Another voice, Nigerian, deep and approving. "She fought. She bled. She stood her ground." Sunhee raised a hand, silence falling instantly. "The question is no longer whether she belongs," she said. "The question is whether we are wise enough to follow her." All eyes turned to Naomi. The weight of it pressed down. But didn't crush her. She stepped forward. "I didn't ask for power," she said clearly. "But I won't run from it either. If you stand with me, I'll protect this family with everything I have. If you stand against me..." She let the pause linger. "You already know how that ends." No shouting. No applause. Just nods. Respect earned the hard way. That night, Jay found her on the rooftop again. "You scared them," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "Good." He studied her, something unreadable in his eyes. "You've changed." "So have you," she replied. "You trust me now." "I trusted you the moment you took that bullet," he said. "I just didn't know how strong you'd become." She looked out at the city, lights endless. "Neither did I." Below them, Seoul breathed. Alive. Unaware. Above it all stood Naomi, no longer a pawn, no longer a victim. The girl who took a bullet was gone. In her place stood a woman who made enemies rethink their next move. And somewhere in the shadows, what remained of the Lotus Syndicate was watching. Planning. Waiting. Naomi smiled slowly. Let them come. This time, she wouldn't just survive. She would dominate. The city was quiet, but Naomi knew better. Silence in a world like theirs wasn't peace, it was the lull before the storm. 2 weeks had passed since the Lotus Syndicate attack, and the compound had become a hive of preparation. Every corridor, every vantage point, every guard was optimized for defense. Naomi moved through it like she owned it, because, in many ways, she did now. Her presence alone shifted the balance of power. Jay approached her as she ran drills on the rooftop range. We have intel, he said, holding a tablet. Viper isn't gone. Just scattered. He's gathering remnants in Busan and Daegu. He's planning a strike on our logistics network. Naomi wiped sweat from her brow. So we hit first. Exactly, Jay said. And I want you leading this one. She blinked. Me? I lead? You've proven yourself. Everyone respects you. They'll follow. Naomi swallowed. Fear tickled her spine, but it was different now. This wasn't panic, it was responsibility, adrenaline sharpened with authority. Fine. Let's do it. Hours later, she stood over a tactical map with Jay, Sunhee, and the captains. Vehicles, escape routes, choke points, and guard rotations were marked in vivid color. Naomi traced her finger along the planned route. We hit the eastern dock first. Quick in and out. No mistakes. Minji nodded. You lead, we follow. The operation began at midnight. Naomi drove the lead vehicle, Jay beside her, Baeo and Minji flanking in motorcycles. Neon lights of the city streaked past, the roar of engines a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. The eastern dock was eerily silent when they arrived. Naomi crouched behind crates, surveying the perimeter. Shadows moved. Figures armed and alert. She whispered into the comms, ready? Always, Jay replied. With precision, they moved. Naomi disarmed a sentry silently, dragging him into the shadows before anyone else could react. The team flowed like water through the complex. Naomi's mind was a calculation of angles, distances, and reactions. She was alive in a way she had never known before. A sudden shout pierced the night. Naomi spun, gun raised. A Lotus operative had spotted them. Engage, she yelled. Bullets flew. Naomi ducked, rolled, fired. One down, two more advancing. She adjusted, taking precise shots. Jay was beside her, unstoppable, lethal, but she felt a thrill. This was her element now. They breached the central warehouse. Viper's men were waiting, but Naomi had anticipated their positions. She moved with calculated fury, taking control, signaling the team with sharp gestures. Every shot, every maneuver was methodical, yet instinctive. Suddenly, a figure lunged at her from behind a stack of crates. Naomi twisted, driving her elbow into his chest and knocking him back. She fired as he scrambled, the bullet finding its mark. Naomi! Jay shouted. She looked up to see the last of the Lotus operatives fleeing toward the shipping containers. She pursued, heart hammering. The chase was intense, metal clanging underfoot, shadows stretching, her mind calculating every step. She cornered the final man, knife in hand. Stop, she barked. He sneered, ready to strike. Naomi dove, rolling, knocking him to the ground. She pressed her gun to his temple. Tell your boss. The black girl who took a bullet is coming for him. And he won't survive next time. He nodded frantically. Fear consumed him. Naomi stood, breathing heavily, adrenaline still coursing, and turned to the warehouse team. They got the message, she said. Now let's clean up and get out. Hours later, back at the compound, Naomi cleaned her gear, muscles aching, mind racing. Jay approached, silent at first. You were incredible, he said quietly. I had to be, Naomi replied, lowering her gaze. Jay placed a hand on her shoulder. You're more than incredible. You're the reason we're alive. The reason our family is safe. You've earned every ounce of respect, not just from me, but from everyone here. Naomi's chest tightened. I didn't do it for respect. I did it for them. For Malik. And you protected him, Jay said softly. And in doing so, you became something else entirely. She didn't respond, only let herself sink into the relief that came after victory, knowing full well that the world outside would never stop testing her, never stop pushing, never stop threatening. But she wasn't afraid anymore. Naomi had survived a bullet. She had survived the Mafia. And now, she was unstoppable. Above the city, the neon lights glimmered, but one thing was certain. Anyone who crossed her path would quickly learn that the black girl who took a bullet wasn't just alive, she was ready for war. The message reached Viper 3 days later. Not through words. Through blood. One of his lieutenants was found at a roadside shrine outside Busan, hands zip-tied, alive but broken, a single sentence carved into the concrete beside him. She leads now. Viper stared at the report in silence, fingers tightening around his phone. For the first time in years, something close to fear crept up his spine. Naomi Carter, no, Naomi Yun, was no longer collateral damage. She was a threat. Back in Seoul, Naomi felt it before she heard it. The shift. The tightening of the air. Power moving against power. She was in the main hall when Kem approached, face grim. "Madam," he said, lowering his voice. "We intercepted chatter. Viper is planning something big. Not an attack." Naomi looked up. "Then what?" "A spectacle." The word settled heavy. That night, the city's largest underground club exploded into chaos. Gunfire. Panic. Screams. By morning, the news was everywhere, dozens injured, several dead. And one message left behind. A burned lotus symbol. Naomi watched the footage in silence, jaw clenched so tight it ached. "He wants attention," Jay said. "He wants you angry." Naomi stood slowly. "He wants to remind me I bleed." "Son," he joined them, expression unreadable. "Then we remind him who taught you how to heal, and how to kill." Plans were set in motion immediately. But this time, Naomi made one thing clear. "This ends with Viper," she said. "No more shadows. No more games." Jay studied her carefully. "You're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking clearly for the first time," she replied. "He escalates. We end it." The trap was elegant. They leaked false intel, an arms deal, massive, sloppy, too good to ignore. Viper bit hard. The meet was set for an abandoned cathedral outside Incheon. Old stone. Long sightlines. No escape routes. Perfect. Naomi arrived last. She stepped out of the vehicle dressed not in tactical gear, but in black silk and steel heels, a pistol hidden at her thigh. Guards stiffened as she passed. Whispers followed her. She didn't care. Viper was already there. He was shorter than she expected. Lean. Eyes sharp with intelligence and cruelty. When he saw her, his smile spread slow and poisonous. "So," he said. "The girl who wouldn't die." Naomi walked straight toward him, stopping just out of arm's reach. "The man who hides behind symbols and fear." He laughed. "You should have stayed small. And you should have stayed quiet." In a blink, the cathedral erupted. Gunfire from above. From behind. From everywhere. Viper's men fell fast, but not fast enough. Someone screamed Malik's name. Naomi's heart stopped. She turned just in time to see a screen lowered from the rafters. Live feed. Malik. Tied. Crying. Viper leaned close, voice a whisper. "You didn't think I'd forget your weakness, did you?" Something inside Naomi snapped. Not fear. Not panic. Resolve. She smiled. "You're too late." The feed glitched. Cut. Kem's voice roared through the comms. "Target secured. Kid is safe." Viper's face drained of color. Naomi drew her weapon and pressed it to his chest. "You lost the moment you underestimated me." He lunged. She fired. The sound echoed like thunder through the cathedral. When the smoke cleared, Viper lay still. Dead. Silence followed, thick, heavy, final. Naomi stood there, chest rising and falling, the weight of it crashing down all at once. Jay reached her, pulling her into his arms. She didn't resist this time. "It's over," he said softly. She nodded against his chest. "It's really over." Weeks later, the city breathed easier. So did Naomi. She stood on the balcony again, Malik laughing behind her, Sunny watching from her chair, Jay beside her, no longer a protector, but a partner. "You changed everything," Jay said. Naomi looked out over the skyline, eyes steady. "No," she replied. "I just refused to disappear." The black girl who took a bullet didn't just survive. She rewrote the rules. And the world would never forget her name.